Today we will talk all about Kaspa. Kaspa is one of the most explosive cryptocurrencies that we've seen in the past 1 year. So if you look on all of the top crypto performance rankings, Kaspa's price has been just going absolutely bananas. So I really wanted to dig deep into the fundamentals of this project and cover what it exactly is and is it worth investing in? What are the long-term potentials? Why is this even gaining so much hype? And today we will dive deep and I'll give you the pros and cons of what I see in this project. And yeah, so if you're new here to the channel, my name is Dennis. This is the Virtual Bacon channel. On here, I do market trends and investing strategy to build wealth in crypto. And I have been a full-time crypto angel investor for the past 5 years, and I have invested in over 100 startups. And if you look at the price performance of Kaspa, so for past 1 year and even maximum, right? So this coin launched actually early 2022. So just about 1.5 years ago. And you see this coin has not been in a bear market. In fact, it's probably the strongest performer in this bear market. And it's, as we speak, it's pretty much testing all-time high. So what exactly is this project? Let's get into it. First things first, Kaspa claims to be a DAG, this revolutionary block DAG, Ghost DAG protocol. So what exactly does this mean? So at its core, Kaspa is a proof of work public distributed ledger. It's not exactly a blockchain, and its consensus protocol is called the Ghost DAG. So the mission of Kaspa is to be the fastest and most scalable instant confirmation transaction network. So we will examine this closely in a bit. How fast is it exactly, and what is this instant confirmation? And here is a bit more about Kaspa. So there are a couple interesting points to note. So Kaspa's block DAG, you might have heard of this DAG kind of structure for a distributed ledger. So how a DAG differentiates from a blockchain is that instead of having a linear set of blocks to include your transactions, a DAG instead forms blocks in multiple with multiple at the same time, and they can point to each other as the new blocks are created. So here is a very simple example. A blockchain is always linear. So you have one block coming after the another. So one block can only include a certain amount of transactions. And before these first transactions are finalized and included in this data structure, no new transactions can be included. A DAG, however, on the other hand, can have multiple streams of transactions happening at the same time. So we have A, B, C here, and then 3 blocks of transactions all being processed, and then here another 3. And this DAG format stands for directed acyclic graph, which means when you have this graph structure, instead of one chain, each of these blocks can point to multiple other blocks of transactions. And this is the directed acyclic graph part. Directed meaning there is a first and second relationship, so directions mean that's why you see these arrows, and acyclic just means there isn't a circular structure. Instead, it's still going in kind of one general direction, but there are multiple streams happening at the same time. So by using this data structure, projects and networks like Kaspa can have much better transaction throughput and settlement, much faster settlement time because of this parallel processing nature. So we'll get into that in a bit in comparison. And something else I wanted to mention specifically about Kaspa's DAG is actually its founder. So Kaspa's founder, Jonathan Sompolinsky, he is a PhD researcher that specifically invented the Ghost DAG protocol. Now, why is this important? This is because Jonathan himself actually having invented this Ghost DAG protocol, this Ghost protocol was actually heavily referenced in Ethereum's current state. And even in Ethereum's latest white paper for Gasper, which is their implementation of this Ghost protocol in combination with Ethereum's Kaspa, Vitalik actually references Jonathan and his advisor, who those two researchers actually invented this protocol. So this is actually very notable, and I dug into this. This is actually true. I'll show you the reference of this. Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty about Kaspa, a few general pros and cons of this DAG structure as kind of a as a kind of primer. So 3 main pros of a DAG versus a blockchain. So number 1 is speed. Transactions in a DAG are not bound by the block times. So this offers them rapid transaction processing without limits on the transaction volume. So because you have this parallel processing, you can have very quick transaction settlement. So on Kaspa, you have 1 second block times, which means every second new blocks are created and settled. And you can see this on the Kaspa Explorer right here. So here you have new blocks, and you can see the timestamps, and every second there's at least 1 block of transactions happening. So this is much faster than typical blockchains that happen in a linear fashion. Number 2 is that DAG-based networks generally have lower transaction costs compared to blockchains like Ethereum or Avalanche. This makes them very suitable for microtransactions. And number 3 is that DAGs are very energy efficient. So another example of a DAG is Phantom. So Phantom Network is not a blockchain, it's a DAG structure, and it uses minimal energy for transactions. So its transaction energy consumption is super low. So it's really suitable for global adoption, or if you have an ESG-friendly investor, they would love to invest in DAGs. So some potential cons of a DAG structure. Number 1 is decentralization. So some DAG-based protocols, they could have centralization elements. This is often seen as short-term measures to bootstrap the network. And this makes them potentially susceptible to third-party interventions and attacks. So we did see this with earlier DAG projects like IOTA. I think that's the earliest one. So IOTA's Tango, this was super hyped up in 2017, 2018. I believe it's the first DAG to actually go to mainnet. However, IOTA has gone down multiple weeks at a time because of how the structure, how the network functions. And part of it is centralized. And I think for IOTA specifically, there was a centralized sequencer that was very susceptible to attacks. Second potential con of DAGs is their lack of large-scale testing. So blockchains, because they came up first, they are way more battle tested. So we have Bitcoin, Ethereum, both testing this transaction-based, the store value settlement, and also as a smart contract network. Both cases have been battle tested with billions of dollars in these networks for almost 10 years now for both networks. So 13 years for Bitcoin, 9 years for Ethereum. So both very battle tested. However, for DAGs, there hasn't been any that have been running for that long. That's the number 2 con. And number 3, some DAGs, even though they claim to be fast, they are not as fast as some of the top proof-of-stake blockchains, such as Solana and Aptos. So we're going to do a full comparison, but just because you use the DAG structure doesn't mean you are as fast as the proof-of-stake chains that just tweak their kind of consensus and their decentralization parameters to be very fast. So for Solana's sake, all of their validators need to be supercomputers. So because they have such high requirements to join the network, they actually end up being way faster than most DAGs out there. So just because you have a DAG structure doesn't mean you are the fastest. However, for Kaspa, their performance is actually top-notch in the industry. So here I'll show you a really quick comparison between different blockchain settlement times. So we have shown this before on Solana's comparison. So here you see the number of confirmations per blocks that's required for each number of confirmations that's required for each blockchain to confirm, and also the approximate time this takes. So here you see Algorand, 1 confirmation per block, Avalanche 1 block, Flow 1 block. So these 1 blocks are the shortest, and Kaspa also takes 1 block for confirmation. And approximation time. So here you see Algorand 5 seconds, and the fastest one on here are around near for 2 seconds, Avalanche 2 seconds, and we have the fastest one in the entire industry is Solana, which is at 400 milliseconds, so 0.4 seconds. Kaspa actually just takes 1 second per block to confirm, so the transaction finality time is just 1 second. So in the entire cryptocurrency blockchain space right now, I think it ranks number 2, just behind Solana in terms of finality time. So this is actually really, really fast, industry leading, just behind Solana. Okay, now let's get into a little bit more about the Kaspa protocol itself. So Kaspa says they are the fastest. I think, there is some truth to this. They're the second fastest. And they say they are the world's first block DAG. I don't think they are the first DAG. However, they are the first ghost DAG. So this ghost part is actually very important. So I want to find you here. So their protocol is called the ghost DAG. So why is this so significant? Let's get back into how this ghost protocol is referenced in Ethereum. So I'll show you this original research from Here is the Ethereum Foundation's website. So Ethereum's current consensus algorithm uses this part called Gasper. So this is a combination of their own Kaspa finality gadget and the LMD Ghost fork choice algorithm. So here, Ghost stands for greedy heaviest observed subtree, which just means it's an algorithm to select which fork of a blockchain is deemed to be the official one based on how much total weight the fork has. So this Ghost protocol is actually invented by Kaspa's founder Jonathan and his PhD mentor Aviv Zohar. So I'll show you the actual reference of this. Here is the official white paper of written by Vitalik and Ethereum Foundation researchers, combining Ghost and Kaspa. And you see, if you just search up Ghost here is the actual reference of the LMD Ghost protocol. And you see here, Ghost is a fork choice rule introduced by Sam Polinsky and Zohar. So Sam Polinsky is Jonathan Sam Polinsky, and Zohar is Aviv Zohar, his mentor. And here is, I think this is actually very useful. This is essentially what Ghost does, right? So you have one of these, think of this as a blockchain, right? Each of these is an individual block. And when you have essentially a fork happening, how do you determine which chain of blocks is the official one? And that comes with how much weight is in the kind of subtree. So in this case, the color one is the official subtree because it has the highest weight. So even though this chain here has the kind of a longer chain of blocks, this one still has more weight. So this one is deemed to be the official one. So this is what Ghost is. And a bit more kind of background here. Very interestingly, Vitalik himself actually referred to the Ghost protocol when describing the Ethereum Gasper protocol. So he specifically mentioned that Jonathan and Aviv Zohar were the official inventors of these of the Ghost protocol. Okay, so now that we know the Ghost protocol is super legit and they have been working on this for the past 10 years, this original Ghost paper dates back to 2013. Let's summarize what sets Kaspa apart from other blockchains. So Kaspa uses a very clever system called the Ghost DAG to balance the traditional blockchain issues, which is that all blocks need to come in a linear format. So this significantly limits the finality time and the transaction throughput. And it does this by forming this kind of directed acyclic graph called a DAG. This way, it allows blocks to point to multiple others, which does prevent double spending, but also enables parallel processing. So with this parallel processing, Kaspa is able to confirm transactions super fast, 1 second per block, and instant finality. And this allows them to handle lots of transactions without slowing down or getting expensive. The result of this is 1 second confirmation, super fast, and ideally this blockchain is best suited for microtransactions because there are no fees and instant settlement. Okay, so that's the summary for Kaspa's technology. Now let me get into some of the kind of misconceptions that I see people have out there. So first things first, DAGs are not a new idea in crypto. So there are many other crypto networks that use this DAG structure. So we have, for example, IOTA, we have already mentioned, this is one of the oldest ones. So IOTA's Tango consensus algorithm is a DAG-based algorithm. More recently, we also have Hedera Hashgraph, we have Phantom, we have Constellation DAO, we have Nano from the 2017 bull market, and even more recently, DAGs are still a popular concept. So I bet you didn't know this, but Sui, the project that's coming out of the Aptos Sui and Facebook Libra project, is also a DAG-based network. So here on Sui's official documentation, Sui's consensus engine called Narwhal and Tusk, and their mempool is based on a DAG structure. So you see here the architecture of how the Sui mempool and the Sui DAG works. Here you see a official figure representing how the construction of their DAG runs. So here you see multiple blocks are being proposed and created, and they all function in parallel. And you see once blocks are being introduced, they all point to multiple sets of other blocks, creating this directed acyclic graph or DAG structure. So DAGs are not unique to Kaspa only. Many other networks use DAG today. And it is a well-known thought that DAGs enable parallel processing, so it is much faster and much cheaper than linear blockchains. So now that we have gotten that out of the way, some more direct comparisons. So here, Kaspa says they are the best of both worlds that combines Bitcoin and Ethereum. So how valid is this? Spoiler alert, I don't think it is comparable to Bitcoin or Ethereum. So number one, how does it compare to Ethereum right now? So Kaspa says they are the second layer, which sits on top of a very secure proof of work mining algorithm that is super fast, but also enables Ethereum virtual machine support and is able to eventually bring on smart contract support. However, today, Kaspa does not have EVM support, which means you cannot build decentralized applications on top of Kaspa. You only can send Kaspa coins to one another. This is the main functionality of the Kaspa network today. So at least at today's stage, it is not comparable to Ethereum. You cannot build DeFi applications. You cannot build these advanced use cases. Then, how does Kaspa compare to Bitcoin? So there are a lot of these comparison charts drawing comparison between Kaspa and Bitcoin. And you see all of these like listing, lists of historical background, all of the metrics and comparisons between Kaspa and Bitcoin. But I think majority of this is bullshit because you really cannot compare any new blockchains and any new cryptocurrencies to Bitcoin because of only a few fundamental reasons. Number one, Bitcoin has by far the longest price history, the longest network history, the longest chain of blocks that cannot be altered, and thus it has the strongest, the hardest attack vector, let's say. So it takes the largest amount of resource to perform a 51% attack on Bitcoin, and it has the largest anti-fragility. So because Bitcoin has been running for so long and so many people have committed to this single chain of Bitcoin among so many forks, it is almost impossible to change Bitcoin today. Versus on something new like Kaspa, even though the technology is probably more superior because it came after Bitcoin and it can implement more features. However, it doesn't take as much effort to change Kaspa, and it doesn't take as much energy and economic effort to perform an attack on Kaspa. That is just simply not comparable to Bitcoin. So yes, if you want to perform microtransactions and if you want to be more advanced, if you want to have faster speeds and lower transaction cost and more environmental friendly mining, Kaspa is definitely is technologically superior to Bitcoin, but from a store of value perspective, Kaspa cannot be compared to Bitcoin. So that is the number one myth. I want to put this out there versus Bitcoin. However, I think there is something to be said when it comes to Bitcoin's fundamental philosophy that does carry over to Kaspa really well. So Kaspa is really rooted in Satoshi's Bitcoin principles, which is that it uses proof of work mining. There was no pre-mine. The supply curve is goes through a halving schedule and is hard capped at a known amount since the very beginning. Kaspa also uses a UTXO state, which is the transaction state used in Bitcoin. The coin itself is follows this token emission schedule, and there's no central governance, which means the tokenomics of Kaspa is very similar to that of Bitcoin's. So this is the part that is very comparable to Bitcoin, and in my opinion is a very bullish set of token emission schedule that we don't see very often anymore in the cryptocurrency space today. So let's get into that a bit more. So a couple things to note first. Number one, Kaspa is a proof of work blockchain. So it takes mining machines to help secure the network, and new coins are distributed this way. So today, Kaspa's mining pools, you can see, are actually very distributed. So we have 19% Hum pool, 18% F2 pool, 13% Kaspa pool, and you see many other pools here. So proof of work is not that common to find anymore in the cryptocurrency space. So Ethereum has transitioned away from proof of work to proof of stake, and nowadays, if you're still running proof of work, you only have a few options. You have like Bitcoin, you have Kaspa. Another common comparison is Cadena, which is another blockchain that have gained a lot of popularity in the last bull cycle. So this is number one thing that draws comparison to Bitcoin. Number two, Kaspa's distribution schedule is also very similar to that of Bitcoin's. So here is the rough emission schedule coming from Kaspa's website. So essentially, the emission goes up very sharply in the beginning, but the supply actually starts from zero. So because there's no pre-mine, it's very similar to Bitcoin. So in month one, the early miners get a lot of the coins, and by month 6, it halves again, and you see the emission schedule pretty much tops out right around month 60 to month 70, right? And looking at the Kaspa token supply here, you see the maximum supply for Kaspa is 28.7 billion tokens, and this is the absolute maximum number of coins that can be that can come to market. So just like Bitcoin, this is a hard cap, and the current circulating supply, 20 billion, comes from this Kaspa emission schedule. So we are right about at this point here, which is right about 25, 26 months in. So you see the curve is starting to slow down a lot more, which means the emission is very predictable. So here is the full emission chart that we can use to calculate how much supply that we're going to have in the next couple years, let's say by the next bull run peak. So you see here, these are the specific dates that we know how much Kaspa tokens are in the market. So you see we are at 2023, right around September. And you see the supply is between month 23 to 24, which is between 20.3 and 20.7 billion tokens. And you see that matches the circulating supply exactly. And going by this clear token emission schedule, let's say by the next bull run peak in 2 years, 2.5 years, by mid to late 2025, let's say by September 2025, the supply of Kaspa will be somewhere around 26.5 billion tokens. So this circulating supply is very predictable, which will be 26.5 billion. That will be about a 90% distribution. Yeah, just under 90% tokens circulating. And by then, how much more of that? Well, that will be about a little bit less than 25%. Yeah, so roughly another 20 to 25% tokens to come out to the market through mining. So all in all, this token emission schedule is very predictable and very similar to Bitcoin. And this is the bullish part that people can draw comparison to Bitcoin, which is that token emission, very fair, no pre-mine, no early investors, no VC, just pure community distribution, miner distribution, and we know exactly how many tokens will be circulating in the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Okay, so that's Kaspa Tokenomics. So finally, let's look at Kaspa's price potential, price performance, and will I still be getting into this coin? Let's get into it. So let me bring you a whole chart of Kaspa, and here it is. Can we do a daily chart? Here we go. So this is the historical price chart of Kaspa. You see, this is pretty crazy, right? Since its launch and listing, it has just been up only. There has not been a bear market on Kaspa, even though it launched in 2022. So right away, I'll give you some clear TA. This is a very clear higher highs and higher lows. So we have here, low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. Now printing new higher high and new higher low here, and potentially new higher high. So right now, at the time of recording, I am not getting into Kaspa at the current price because it is literally revisiting all-time high, and frankly, I think the rally is getting a little bit exhausted. It is a super strong uptrend in the long term. So I am looking at potentially accumulating this coin on the next correction. So what would that look like? Assuming this higher high here, if Kaspa cannot break above this previous higher high. So let me draw just a direct line here. So you see this previous high at 5 cents exactly. We had a wick above on the daily, but it did not close above it. So if Kaspa cannot break above this 5 cents level, I think a correction is due, because this will look very similar to a double top pattern, in which case the clearest target that we can have is right around the 3.3 cents level. So if this level gets tested, this is going to be the first range that I'm going to look to see, at least, right? If we get a strong bounce from here, then that's going to be still a buy for me, because this will show another higher high, another higher low above this previous low at 0.033, which is 3.3 cents. So if Kaspa can come down but bounce anywhere above 3.3 cents, that's going to be the first buy target for me. If, on the other hand, if 3.3 doesn't hold and price comes all the way down to test 3.3 but breaks below it, then probably a little bit more downside in this kind of correction. Then the next support levels I'm looking at is at, first of all, right here, which is 2.1 cents, dating back to this wick and this previous higher low here. So if 3.3 cents breaks, I'm going to look to accumulate right around 2.1 cents. And if that even breaks, then we are looking at very significant support at 1.4 cents. So this significant support is the top of this consolidation range and tested twice here in the May bottoms. So a lot of clear levels on the downside to accumulate at. All in all, I'm not looking to pick up Kaspa at the current price, simply because it's literally revisiting all-time high. So I think a correction is due. However, long-term, purely long-term, this is the strongest performing coin in the entire bear market. So if you are looking to bet on, 1 year, 2 years from now, this coin is most likely going to make new all-time highs. It's most likely going to do well. And because we know the clear tokenomics and token supply that's coming to the market, which is only about 20%, 25% extra to be released in the next 2 years. This way we know the fully diluted valuation and the market cap is not too far off. So right now it's about 70, that's, how much is that? 20, yeah, about 70% circulating. It will go up to about 80 to 90% circulating. All very healthy tokenomics numbers. And on top of that, the fully diluted valuation at 1.3 billion for a brand new layer 1 that is performing super strong. I don't think that's quite that overvalued. So if you compare it to other brand new layer 1s, Sui, Aptos, those are both trading at $4 to $5 billion, and majority of the supply is still locked up in early investors. That's going to come to the market in the next couple of years. Kaspa's tokenomics and valuation, I think, frankly, is quite healthy. And 1.3 billion, I don't think it's overvalued. So that's kind of a very quick price view on Kaspa. Honestly, there isn't much to say about Kaspa's catalyst events and really the price potential it can grow to, because you just have that comparison of 1.3 billion versus like 4 to 5 billion of Aptos and Sui. I think that's totally fair assessment and fair target for a 4 to 5 billion fully diluted market cap for a fair launched layer 1 coin that's actually leading the industry in its performance. But aside from the pure price comparison, just be careful getting into Kaspa at these very high valuations. Wait for a correction. Okay, so that's the really quick price analysis what else did I have? Let me see here. Yeah, that's about it. Oh yeah, I wanted to cover actually the social engagement of Kaspa. So one of the strongest suits of Kaspa is that it has a super strong social volume and social engagement in this bear market. So even though you don't see it talked about very often on YouTube, on kind of mainstream crypto Twitter, on mainstream investment channels, it does have one of the strongest mentions in all social media platforms. So here you see Lunar Crush, one of the leading social engagement trackers. And you see this is the altcoin ranking for Kaspa based on its price performance, its trading volume, its social score, and social volume. So you see out of 4,400 coins, Kaspa is ranked number 14 in social volume. Very, very high. Compared to its price ranking, its market cap ranking at only top 44, it's number 14th in social rank. Here you see the social volume chart for Kaspa. So since its launch, it was already ranked at around top 100, top 200 in social volume, but especially for the past 1 year in 2023, it has consistently ranked in top 20, top 30, sometimes even top 10 in social volume ranks. So this is very high. So sometimes it's even top 10 most mentioned coins in all crypto. Very, very high. And I also had here. You can see this a little bit more for the Galaxy score ranking for Kaspa. So you see by far the strongest suit for Kaspa is its social sentiment. 3.6 out of 5 for the past, I think, 1 month. Price score 1.2 out of 5. This is also not true because if you rank this by 1 year, it's probably 5 out of 5 for price score. So yeah, those two metrics, strongest price score in the bear market and strongest social sentiment in the bear market. And I'll just show you last bit of just direct sentiment check, right? I posted about Kaspa yesterday on, where is it? Here. So should I do a deep dive on Kaspa currency, the Kaspa ticker? And you see just in 1 day, we're getting 400 likes, 120 comments, 20,000 views. So this is way above my engagement averages. The only type of averages, these type of engagements I can get for a specific coin and a specific other community, I would say is Hex and Pulse Chain. The hexagons, I would expect to get similar numbers. But aside from that, I don't think for any other ticker, any other community, I can get these levels of engagement. Not even for XRP, not even for Link Marines, Chainlink, for Cardano. I don't think I'll get that kind of engagement ever. So all in all, definitely a very strong community for Kaspa, very strong supporters. And yeah, that's basically it. So Kaspa definitely on my watch list now for really just the very clear tokenomics, very clear fair launch, super strong community engagement, and super strong price performance in the bear market, which is definitely an indicator that shows that it will continue to sustain leading into the next bull market. However, just pay attention, Kaspa is at all-time high now. So I wouldn't be buying at 5 cents. I'm waiting for at least 3.3 cents and see the price reaction here. If this breaks, I think we can get something between 2 to 3 cents as potential entry targets. And that's what I'm going to be looking at for the next few months. Okay, so that's it for Kaspa. Let's do some very quick Q&As. And let me see here.